Buddy, we've talked about tables in Microsoft Word before, and it is often very useful to have a table in your Word or word processing document. But now we're going to talk about the thing that does tables the best, and that's Excel. Now first, here's something really nice you can do. Look at how all of these, what these are. I can't see the whole thing. What these number means is there's a number on there, under there, but it's too big to show you. I can't see whether it's east, west, or central, the whole words. I can't see these whole names. So let's fix that very, very quickly. I'm going to just highlight all of these columns, and I'm going to put my mouse in between so I get this little thing with two arrows here. Double click. It automatically adjusts the columns to the exact right width that they ought to be. The same thing could happen with rows. If I had some rows that were not quite right there, so I select all my rows, put my thing until there's a little double arrow there, double click, and all of my rows are the proper height. So what's the next thing we want to do? Well, like we talked about in Word, tables in Word, we can go ahead, select all this, and we've got this option here that is called Merge and Center. I'm going to click that. Now all those tables, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cells, were combined, merged into one, and the text that was in it centered, hence merge and center. All right, so what do we want to do next? Maybe some math. Now let's do total. Microsoft Excel makes it very easy to do totals. So I want to know how many total units were sold. All I got to do is click here in the auto sum. It's going to assume that I mean to sum all of the cells above it in its same column. And so that's fine. That's what I want. Click enter. There's the total of all the units sold. And we don't need to really total a unit cost, but let's go ahead and total the total amount of money made. Auto sum. Done. Now what if I want an average? So in order to know an average, I need to know how many of these there are. Now I could just put in 10, but let's say that it's going to change, so I want to keep up with that change. So I'm going to put equals count, and it's going to be E3 there. See, E3, all the way down to E12, colon E12. Okay, so that's 10. That's a count of 10. It's not the average yet. But just let's notice, if I insert a row, same way as we do in Microsoft Word, and I put another number in here, my count, remember this is not the average yet, it's just the count of how many numbers are going to be in the average. It automatically keeps up. I'm going to delete this row, just like we would have done with a row in a table in Microsoft Word. At the count, I should say, goes back down to 10. So, but the count is only part of a average. The average is the total of all this stuff divided by the count. So now I want to get the average number of units sold. Well, like I've said, so far this is just a count of how many of these numbers there are. In order to do it, we've got to put the value of the sum, which we've already got down here under total. So total is going to be row 13, column E. Actually, the column goes first. So row 13, column E is the total. So I'm going to put equals E13 and then divided by that count. So as we might expect now, E13, the total, divided by the count, going to be 10, is 1/10 of the total. 581, 58.1. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here. And it's going to say equals count, which is the number of these rows I have. And remember, it gets adjusted if we add new ones or take some out. That's going to be golf 3, right? There's golf, there's 3, golf 3, until, which we use a little colon for, golf 12. Oh, now that's just the count. There are 10 of these different numbers we're dealing with. But we want to look at the sum. I could put a sum statement in there, but it's easier just to say, well, that's just G13 is the total. We already know that. Divided by the count. Now, again, with 10, so we get 10%, 3576.2, 357.62. Exactly what we want. And let's just make sure it updates. Let's go ahead and delete one of these rows. That's all updated. All the math has been redone for you. I'm going to put that back. I'm going to undo what I just did. And so the next thing we want to probably do is change our borders up a little. Now, one thing I like to do is add a row on top and a column on the side on the left, so that after I finish making this, I could change this and make it over here or over there if I want to. And it's easier to see what the borders are going to be, and it's easier to insert more stuff on top or on the side if I want to. So what I want to do is notice how thin these little borders between the cells are, right? Little tiny. That means that when you print it out, there's actually going to be nothing there. So I want to put some lines in between these first thing. So I'm going to select the whole thing. I'm going to go to my lines option here. We call it borders. And I want to put borders all over everything. So I click that. I've got borders all over everything. Let's say the next thing I want to do is I want the whole outline of the table to have a double border. So I'm going to click this little arrow next to the double borders. I'm going to say border style, and I'm going to click the double right here. Again, border tool, border style, double, and click it. Now I'm going to go border tool, and I just want the outline. Here it shows you it's just the outline. So I'm going to click the outline, and now the outline is double bordered. Now under here and here, both of them, I may want a bold line because this is the top. It needs to be differentiated from the rest, and this is the headings, and it needs to be differentiated from the rest. So I'm going to select both of them, and I'm going to click my border tool. I'm going to choose my border style as being thick, and I'm going to choose just the bottom. See here, it's just the bottom. Now, just the bottom here is bold. Do it again for sales totals. just the bottom, bold. Perfect. We may want above the total and average to be bold also. Click the tool. We've already got the border style set as to bold, and we click the one on the top. Little picture has the top on it. Now we've got a bold line there. Now I want to change the colors maybe. I'm going to change the colors. I'm going to click sales totals. It's only one cell because I did that merge and center. I want it to be a next color. Notice that I have two different color options. One has a paint bucket and one has the letter A. I'm going to show you what each of these do. Now, the more easy to talk about is this letter A here. Well, first of all, let's say I want to take all the order dates and I want to make them bold. Well, I can easily select them all and click here for bold, or Control B, Option B, depending on what keyboard you're using for a hotkey. So I click bold that time. I want to unbold them. I'll use my hotkey, Control B. Now they're all unbolded. So similarly, I could just say I want all of this right here to be red. So I go ahead and I click my A drop down right here, right, with the color under it. And I select red. And now all this stuff is red. Now I want to change the background. That's where the paint bucket comes in. So let's start with sales totals, only one cell. I'll click it. I want the background to be yellow. Now it is. Now this is the column headers of what all of these things are about. I want this to have a different background. I want the background here to be green. Nope, I press the A. Paint bucket. I press the paint bucket. And we hit green. And of course, now I want to change the text back because we all make mistakes. And that's what just happened to me. So I'm going to change the text back to black. All right. So now we've colored this, we've colored that. Again, if we wanted to color a column, we could select it and change the background color to orange. And then that doesn't look good with that font. So we're going to change the font color to be dark blue. Now, again, I just made a mistake. Change the background color. So let's change the font color now. The font color to be yellow. All right. And it's fun that I made those mistakes because sometimes we all make mistakes. And I'd like to show you when I make mistakes that come up that weren't planned, how to deal with them, which I just have. We saw in this how to make different types of Excel documents, or at least use different features in an Excel document, how to automatically change the width of your columns so that they each are just large enough to support what's inside them. We saw how to make different borders around and inside and all over the table. And we saw how to color the font, or what we call the foreground of each cell, and how to recolor the background of each cell. And when making mistakes about doing that, how to fix it. All right, guys, remember, don't forget, comment, like, subscribe, hit the bell button. We'd love you to do that. But what we'd love you to do even more is tell your friends, family, colleagues, anyone that you think would be interested by and would benefit from basic computer lessons like these, turn them on to me. All right, you guys, Toby out.